Well, that was absolutely shit. Hello, and welcome back to Rugby This Evening, the show that says if anything's going to wobble, it had better be the table. Yesterday had some pretty darn spiky rugby, but today's rugby was less spiky. It was not as spiky, it was straight up unspiky. On the spikiness scale, out of a possible 5 Italian cities, I would rate today's rugby spikiness 1.5 Italian cities. Let's look straight at the third game first. It's England versus Tonga. Yes, today was the third time in Rugby World Cup history that England had played Tonga. It was also the third time in Rugby World Cup history that England had beaten Tonga. It was 35-3 after 80 minutes. This was a win for England, with a bonus point. There is nothing else to talk about. The table of Pool C now looks like this, with England in the lead and Tonga in the not lead. Next up, we have the second game that came before that. It is Ireland versus Scotland, one that we all hoped would be very, very close indeed. Slightly interestingly, Scotland and Ireland had only faced each other once before at a Rugby World Cup. That was in 1991, where Scotland beat them to win the pool and ultimately reach the semi-finals. But today there was a slightly different story. Delivery! Oh, grazie! It's spaghetti. I love Italy. So Ireland won by some score or other. But much more importantly, Italy played Namibia first thing this morning in a match that can only be described as hotly anticipated and watched by millions. Let's see it now. So yes, the brave Italians played against Namibia earlier today. Our heroes scored the tries: Allen, Kana, Minozzi, Padovani, Polledri and Tibaldi, scoring 6 amazing tries for Italy. What a team, what an incredible team. But who can forget Ruzza, the man of the match. The final score then...
47-22.
And this is what their pool looks like now. Italy on top of Pool B over those giants, South Africa and New Zealand. Talking of Italy, let's have a look at their fixtures for this year's Rugby World Cup. South Africa and New Zealand are games that they will lose quite considerably, and Canada and Namibia are games they will win quite considerably. They will be mostly outclassed in the first two, they'll be mostly unchallenged in the second two, and that's not quite good enough. This is the Rugby World Cup, this is the centrepiece. This is supposed to be the point every 4 years where teams like Italy can chart their progress, but Italy won't be able to in 2019. They'll come third in their pool and they'll go home. This is the exact same outcome as they've had ever since the World Cup changed format in 2003. Italy have only ever had 2 wins, 2 losses, third in the pool and home. Surely there's a way to better serve teams like Italy, and I am of course thinking of full classification, something that's been alive and well in the women's competition ever since it began, and I think it would work wonders in the men's. So, we've had a little think, and we've gone a little further, and we are proposing an entirely new format to the Rugby World Cup. Our proposal for an alternate Rugby World Cup features 32 teams and has full classification from 1 down to 32. The first major difference is in the qualification zones. Whilst at the moment they use continental regions, we would use areas slightly larger to get better teams in the tournament. That means sides such as Namibia, who only get through to play New Zealand by virtue of being in Africa, they would have games against teams that suit them a little better. So how do the qualification spaces get decided? So it's as simple as finding the top 12 teams from the previous tournament and adding 1 for each, including repechage, to make 16. This is a proposed qualification system. Of course, each region still has the right to their own system, which is why Spain and Romania would be knocked out this time, essentially eliminated for fielding ineligible players. For the lower 16, all of the repechage competitors would make the tournament, as would the top 3 from each region. As for the pools, Pool A to Pool D would feature the top 16, whilst the Pool E's would feature the second 16. There is an option of playing each team in your pool twice, or playing one team and then your next opponent being decided whether you won or lost. For example, if Japan played France and Scotland played the United States, Japan would lose to France and would then play the United States in a decider for third in their pool because they both lost their first game. However, no team would be eliminated after the pool stage, which means that we would have a round of 16 for both tournaments. This would then be whittled down into standard quarter-finals, semi-finals and finals before giving us a full classification from 1 to 32. If we follow Italy, we will see that not only do they have more games, but despite losing a knockout game to Wales, they stay in the competition to fully classify themselves, playing Japan, Tonga and the United States. This is a much better situation than just playing Namibia, Canada, South Africa and New Zealand, as we can see when we look at the rankings. Italy are 14th in the world. In full classification, they gradually play teams closer and closer to them until their final match, the playoff, they play the team which is closest to them in quality. This adds the drama of a last 16 quarter-final, semi-final, final run, 4 knockout games. And when Italy's happy, everyone's happy. That is the master plan. Like it or loathe it, let us know. So, that is the end of today, which is day 3 of the Rugby World Cup. No more drop goals, so no more sweet brass. However, there's one more thing left to do. Predictions. Today, the head got 3 out of 3, the heart only 2 out of 3, because it thought Scotland would beat Ireland, which is hysterical. That means the heart is on 3, the head is on 6. We'll be back tomorrow for Wales versus Georgia. Not even the icy lump in my chest thinks that Georgia will win that, so both head and heart going for Wales. Join us then, and into the next week, when we'll be introducing new features, including a skills test with a celebrity guest. See you then. Bye. Ha 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 ha! This program was sponsored by Italia.